Welcome to the second lecture in the marketing series. In the second lecture, we'll look at an application of diffusion of innovations. This is a picture of Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone. How long do you think it took for the telephone to be widely diffused, meaning for 90% of households to own a phone after it was invented in 1876? Please pause the lecture video to think about this and choose an answer. Write down your answer. For a moment, please forget everything you know today and try to imagine being in 1876. What alternatives existed to the telephone in 1876? Please pause the lecture video to formulate an answer. When the telephone was invented in 1876, people delivered information either in person, by messenger, or perhaps by telegraph. Please answer the following questions and write down your answers. Do you think the relative advantage of the phone, this is the degree to which it was perceived as being better than the product it replaced, was high in 1876? If you think this is true, write relative advantage : high. If you think this is false, write relative advantage : low. Do you think compatibility of the phone, this is the degree to which it was consistent with existing values and experiences of potential adopters, was high in 1876? Write down whether you think compatibility was high or low. Do you think complexity of the phone, this is the degree to which it was difficult to understand and use, was high in 1876? Write down whether you think complexity was high or low. Do you think trialability of the phone, this is the degree to which it could be experimented with on a limited basis, was high in 1876? Write down whether you think trialability was high or low. Do you think observability of the phone, this is the degree to which product usage and impact were visible to others, was high in 1876? Write down whether you think observability was high or low. Okay, let's now try to look at the product-based factors for the telephone at the time it was introduced in 1876 and try to predict the rate of adoption of this innovation. The first product-based factor is relative advantage, the degree to which a product is perceived as being better than the product it replaces. What benefits did the telephone provide over existing means of communication, such as in-person delivery, by messenger, or telegraph? What about cost? The telephone was very expensive early on. Both installation and usage fees were high. Contrary to today, work and social interaction were local, and there was less of a need to speak to distant friends and family. A telephone is only as useful as the amount of people you can reach using one. Early on, very few people owned a telephone, which limited the number of people you could call. All in all, the benefits of the telephone were limited and the costs were high, so the relative advantage compared to existing alternatives was low, which negatively affected the rate of adoption. The next product-based factor is compatibility, the degree to which a product is consistent with values and experiences of the adopter. To many people, the idea of a voice coming out of a metal box was frightening. Also, the telegraph had the advantage of providing people with a hard copy. In conclusion, compatibility was low, negatively affecting the rate of adoption. The next product-based factor is complexity, the degree to which a product is difficult to understand and use. The telephone was actually easy to use, but it was, and it still is, complex to understand how it works. People were also wondering whether the telephone could transmit diseases, whether they could get electrocuted, or even whether the telephone could speak their language. In conclusion, the complexity of the phone was relatively low, so this positively affected the rate of adoption. The next product-based factor is trialability, the degree to which a product may be experimented with on a limited basis. Early on, the telephone was only used by the very wealthy and high-end businesses, so the degree to which people could try it out was very limited. The limited trialability negatively affected the rate of adoption. The next product-based factor is observability, the the degree to which a product's usage and impact are visible to others. Usage of the telephone was actually highly visible because one needed to run a wire to one's home or business. The high observability of the usage of the telephone positively affected the rate of adoption. Looking at the framework in its entirety, 3 out of 5 product-based factors were of such nature that the prediction would be a slow rate of adoption. It took until 1980 for the telephone to be widely used by American households, more than 100 years after its invention in 1876. Indeed, the product-based factors predicted a slow rate of adoption due to the limited relative advantage, low compatibility, and low trialability of the telephone in its earlier years. This concludes the marketing lecture series.